To get the main topic started, I've got a few statistics from moneygeek.com that I'd like to share with you. In 2021, the average spending per American on holiday shopping was $1,131. Now that's average. Next, and this one's really interesting, one out of four Americans had regret about how much money they spent in December for the holidays. And a majority of that regret was regretting that they spent too much, not too little. Next, that same survey from 2021 found that 65% of Americans leaned on credit cards when it came to making their holiday purchases. And this last statistic is the one I think is most important for you to hear. 40% of Americans who made holiday purchases in 2021, according to this survey from MoneyGeek, were still in debt. They hadn't paid all the debt from their purchases in December off by the 11th of February, 2022. I share this to highlight that it's normal to go into debt in order to afford the social expectations that we have around holiday gift exchanges. The social pressures and expectations during this season are real, and they can push us to outspending our income quite easily. That's why if you're trying to get out of debt here in December, one thing that you can do that really helps is simply don't add any more debt. Look at what you can actually tangibly do with the money you have this month for the holidays. Either look at the savings you have or what you can cash flow if you don't have a lot in the way of savings. If you can manage just that, not adding any more debt, that's winning a huge battle. That's already getting ahead of what is normal when it comes to holiday shopping. Now, simply not adding any debt this December may not be enough, and here's why. I can see that it's very tempting to look at the holiday season, look at December and say, there are so many obligations pulling my time and my money to everything here. I don't even have time to focus on where my money's going or this debt thing. I'll just put getting out of debt off until the new year. And there's a danger to that. If we are willing to put off our financial priority that is on the path to our hope-filled financial future because of a season of life, well, we're going to be able to rationalize putting off paying our debts down over and over and over for little things and big things that show up throughout the year after the holidays are over, all the way until we're back at December again. And while that may not stunt your debt-free journey entirely forever, it can definitely prolong it. If you want to get out of debt and you want to get out fast and you're serious about doing it, you want to make a difference, you want to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle, and you want to make this a reality sooner than later, it can be very convicting and powerful to look at the season where it's the easiest to put off paying off debt, because goodness, most of us add debt during this time of year. We look at it and we say, I'm going to start now. I don't have to wait for a New Year's resolution. We are getting out of debt, and I'm going to make a statement of it by making it start when it is the hardest thing to do. Okay, so how do we do this? It's time now for my top 5 ways that you can actually make progress in paying off your debts during the holidays this December. Okay, number 1, itemize and prioritize. Write down everything that you expect to be spending extra money on this month because it's the holidays. This is not only going to include the gifts that you're going to give to each of the people who you traditionally give gifts to, but also trips, extra decorations, parties, extra food purchases. List out everything that's holiday related and list them in priority. We want to put the most important things on this list at the top, and the things that are the least important, kind of like that company white elephant $5 gift exchange thing that happened on Bad Ugly Sweater Day, on the bottom. And if we're not going to be adding any more debt, we should have an idea in our budget what the maximum is that we can spend on the holidays. Now we can take our itemized and prioritized list, run down and assign $1 to each of these individual items. And for those things that don't really matter that much to us, we can be empowered to say no to them and have a practical, tangible reason on paper, on purpose, why we get to say no. To summarize, itemize and prioritize all the extra spending that you expect to have because of the holiday season. Give a dollar amount to the things that are high on your priority list and say no to the ones that are low. Okay, tip number 2 relates very strongly to my story. Give time and talent over treasure. Just like the gift that I gave to my sister when I took her bowling and then got her an ice cream, I didn't really spend a lot of money. I spent very little compared to what I gave to my brothers. But that gift meant more to her. It meant more to us than any of the tangible stuff things that I gave anyone else. I don't remember any of the gifts that I gave anyone else that year. None of it, just the time and talent that I was able to give to my sister. It might be a little cliche. We hear that it's the thought that counts, but when it comes to giving our time and our talent, well, the thought that counts can shine through a lot more than it might in a tangible gift purchase. And if you're creative enough, you don't really have to have a whole lot of spending to give thoughtfully and meaningfully to those whom you love. Okay, number 3, be thrifty. So when I was younger, I shopped at thrift stores. Now, I still will do some Christmas shopping at a thrift store, or look around eBay, or try to hunt down the super sales that happen for items that I know I want to buy as gifts. And here's the thing, you can get some really cool nostalgic stuff or memorabilia off of auction sites like eBay, if you will, that you can't get at a retail store, and you can get them for pretty cheap if the person you're buying the gift for wants something that's not terribly rare and high demand. I'll give you an example. A year or two ago, I got my sister-in-law a bookmark, which had a snip of the original mastered film from Lilo and Stitch, and it was in the bookmark. So you actually had a frame from the original mastering of the movie. That's really cool, and it wasn't that expensive. And this year, for one of my brothers, I got them a Lego toy that they had when we were kids, and we would play games, and well, they lost this particular toy. So I found one that's basically in perfect shape on eBay. I think he's really going to like it. Okay, number 4, make a homemade gift or regift something. Okay, when you're getting out of debt, it can be a benefit if you go through what you have and don't need and sell it. Alternatively, you wouldn't have to go through the hassle or the time of selling it if that particular thing you don't need or don't want anymore could make a good gift. While you might not be collecting capital on selling it to pay off your debt, you are making progress where you may otherwise have spent money. And when it comes to the homemade gifts, you could make some really cool stuff for almost nothing. And I've got a good example. So Amanda's grandparents don't really need anything when it comes to stuff. They're retired. They have basically anything and everything they could need. They have a lot of family who will give stuff to them. And I remember Amanda's paternal grandmother told me, please don't get me anything else that hangs on the walls. There's no more space on the walls anywhere. And in all reality, we can't really buy them anything that's going to tangibly improve their lives or be an item of major value. If they needed it, they could buy it. So what we're doing this year, and I've got my dad involved. If you're watching the video, I've got a few little wooden boxes that I've kind of been working on in my dad's shop with him. It was just a little piece of wood that may not be used for anything else. And the grandparents both really like cards. There's a single box for a single deck of cards, a pinochle deck. At least that's the intent. And there's another one, you're going to hear this when I open it. It's a tight-fitting lid. It just sits on top. But when I open it, it pops right off. And it holds 2 decks of cards. It's for a 2-deck canasta game, if you will. They love playing cards. We're going to wood burn some fun stuff that is specific to the relationship that Amanda and I have with each respective grandparent. And I think they're going to be really cool. They're going to be meaningful. And they didn't cost us near anything. Sure, we're buying some cards to put in the boxes, but a deck of playing cards costs less than $4 online. So there's an example of how I'm exercising a homemade gift in a way that I think is going to be more meaningful. And while I'm not paying off debt, I think it's going to be better received than something more expensive. Again, showing that while you're getting out of debt, you can give gifts that are more meaningful than what might otherwise be expensive. Okay, time for the last one. Number 5, sell stuff to buy better. You may have heard this before. We want to have nice stuff. We want to have things that last. We want to have things that improve our quality of life. But we don't want our nice stuff to have us. In our consumer-centric society today, it's so easy to end up overly attached to things, to try to find our happiness in stuff. Really, a lot of consumer debt can be tied back to the root that we're pursuing happiness through the acquisition of things. And if you hear me give this tip, if you hear me give this point and you go, I don't want to sell any of my things. Well, you might be a little attached to it to the point that it's going to be difficult to sell stuff to get out of debt. One of the best ways to accelerate your debt-free journey is to sell things that you don't need today or won't need in the near future in order to get a little bit of capital and apply it to your debts. But we're attached to our stuff. Our stuff feels like an extension of us in some ways. It's the way that I feel about some of my things, like my new laptop. I feel that way personally about some things like the cars that we drive. Or, hey, guys, the barbecue grill. I'm definitely attached to my barbecue grill. It is a charcoal grill. It is a single Weber-looking grill. It's not made by Weber. It's a knockoff. But I like my barbecue grill. Okay, so if you're attached to something, you're thinking you might want to let it go, but you don't know because you're feeling attached. How do you know if you should or shouldn't let it go? There's a thought exercise you can do. You can look at an item and say, would I go into debt to buy this item again today if I didn't already have it? And if the answer is no, well, maybe that's a thing that you can let go if you don't need it. If you wouldn't buy it again today, basically in that thought exercise, you chose the money instead of that thing. But because of the endowment effect, if we put it the other way where we're struggling on letting go of the stuff because we already own the thing, we already own the stuff, we don't want to let it go because we put more value on it since we already own it. In one situation, we chose the money. In the other situation, we chose the stuff. And if we don't choose the same thing when we shift our framing, there might be a cognitive trick that our brain is throwing at us or an emotional thing that is preventing us from moving forward with our debt-free journey. But we're not just talking about getting out of debt here. We're talking about getting out of debt and pursuing some of the extra expenses that come with the holidays. So let's say you follow the first tip. You itemize and prioritize things and you just do not have the money to put towards the holidays near anything that you would prioritize normally, and you don't feel like you can say no to it. Well, instead of going out and trying to do extra work, goodness, our time is pulled 1,000 different ways. We're going to parties, we're trying to meet with family, we're trying to do all sorts of stuff we don't normally do the rest of the year. It's going to be difficult for us to go out there and earn some extra money. So what do? We got to sell some things in order to make those priorities become a reality. I'm pretty sure there was an old Mickey Mouse cartoon that I watched growing up where Mickey wants to give Minnie Mouse a chain for her locket, and Minnie Mouse wants to give Mickey Mouse a case for his harmonica. Well, Mickey sells his harmonica to buy the chain, and Minnie sells the locket in order to buy the case. In the gift exchange, well, it showed that they were willing to sacrifice a lot for each other, and that was meaningful, even though the gifts held no more utility because of what happened. And that story exemplifies right here that selling something that we already have in order to prioritize someone else in the spirit of giving can be, even if they don't know that you did it, can put a lot more meaning and intentionality behind the gift giving that we're doing. And bonus, if we're going to be getting out of debt and our debt-free journey is going to be extended past the holidays, we're not wrapping it up here. Well, this helps us build some of those muscles to sell stuff in order to pay off our debt faster. Doing this can help us build up our let it go muscles. Let it go! As we're preparing to knock out the rest of our debt moving forward. Okay, what do you think of my top 5 tips to help you get out of debt despite it being December? I'd love to see your thoughts in the comments, and if you had a favorite tip, please let me know what it was. And if there was something that I missed that's really helped you get out of debt despite it being December, despite the holidays, I'd love to hear about it too. Sharing it in the comments on the platform where you're consuming the HopeFilled Financial Podcast can really help other listeners grow in their HopeFilled financial journey. And if you listened all the way to the end today, please consider liking or subscribing to the HopeFilled Financial Podcast. We're going to be putting out some really good stuff here in 2024. And I think that's going to do it for us today. So remember, budget bravely and enjoy your HopeFilled financial future.